Hello everyone, so my name is Rahzika binti Muhammad Shamsuri and my fellow friends Izni, Damia and Adabia. We are going to present our review about the famous short story that is called The Monkey Pose, that written by W. Jacobs. The story is a classic example of successful and supernatural fiction, and it comes with a very important warning: be careful what you wish for, because sometimes what you desire the most can bring the terrible consequences. So, in our review, we will tell and discussing the characters, the settings, the plot, and the author style of writing. We hope you enjoy it. I am going to explain a review about the characters from The Monkey Pose. So, the story revolves around the White family who live in a quiet, isolated house far from the rest of the village. Mr. White is the father who is a curious and somewhat reckless man who desires to explore the mysterious and unknown drive the story forward. His curiosity leads him to keep the monkey's pose even after Sergeant Major Morris warns him of its dangerous power. On the other hand, Mrs. White is a deeply loving and emotional mother. Her devotion to her son, let's call Herbert, becomes the driving force behind her desperation later in the story, as she pushed her husband to use the pole to bring Herbert back to life. Herbert himself is a playful and witty, often teasing his father, making humorous remarks. Despite his brief appearance, his tragic death becomes the central turning point of the story. Despite his brief appearance, his tragic death becomes the central turning point of the story, illustrating the cruel consequences of the tampering with fate. Finally, Sergeant Major Morris is a mysterious and experienced visitor from India. He has been seeing the effect of the monkey pose firsthand and understand the power that it holds. His warning and cautious attitudes contrast sharply with the White family curiosity and impatience, highlighting the danger of human desire and interference with destiny. That is all from me. Thank you.
Next, we are going to talk about the setting and also the atmosphere of the story. The setting of the monkey's paw play a crucial role in building suspense and eerie feeling that runs throughout the story. Most of the events take place inside the White family home, which is described to be small, cozy, and also isolated from the rest of the village. The isolation of their home is important because it gives the story a sense of quiet normalcy, which makes the intrusion of the supernatural events even more shocking. Living far from neighbors also emphasizes the vulnerability of the family. They are alone with the monkey's paw and its mysterious power, and there's no one to help them when tragedy strikes. So the story opens on a cold, wet night with the wind howling and rattling the windows. So the author, Jacobs' description of the weather immediately creates a tense, uncomfortable, and slightly ominous mood. The harshness of the storm outside mirrors the potential danger of tampering with fate. Inside the home, the fire burns brightly and the family is engaged in ordinary activities like playing chess and knitting. This contrast between the warm, safe interior and the threatening, stormy exterior enhance the feeling of suspense. The home feels comfortable and familiar, which makes the audience feel secure at first. But this very security is what makes the intrusion of the supernatural is so terrifying. So as the story progresses, the setting shifts to moments to intense grief and horror. When Herbert dies, the family experiences profound sorrow, and the bleakness of the environment around them, such as the empty and cold street or the quiet cemetery, mirrors their emotional state. So the author deliberately used these settings to intensify the mood of despair and helplessness. The description of the cemetery, for instance, is minimal but effective, highlighting the isolation and the finality of death. The family is physically and emotionally distant from comfort and also safety, which increases the tension and make the supernatural event even more frightening. Even in the most suspenseful moment, such as when Herbert is thought to have written, Jacob, the author, uses darkness, shadows, and the cold wind to heighten fear. The home, which was once warm and secure, transformed into a place of anxiety and terror. Shadows cast by the almost burned out candle, the flickering of the fire, and the movement of subject around the room all contribute to the feeling that something is not right. This use of setting is not just descriptive. It actively shapes the emotion of the character and the reader, making the suspense feel immediately real. So in summary, the setting of The Monkey's Paw is central to the story suspense and horror. The isolated home, the stormy weather and the bleak cemetery, and the darkness during the climactic event all work together to create an atmosphere of tension, fear, and also inevitability. So Jacob, a careful attention to environmental details allow the reader to feel the emotional weight of the White family experience. Make the story not just a tale to supernatural event, but also a story that deeply engages us with the family's fear, grief, and helplessness.
So next, let's move on to the style of writing and our personal opinion. The first one is Jacob. W. Jacob used simple yet descriptive language that spills tension and horror gradually. The story used a lot of imagery like a wine, darkness, and silence to make the readers imagine the early atmospheres. And then he also used foreshadowing effectively, such as the Sergeant Major warning and Herbert jokes about the paw. These hints prepare us for the tragedy that follows. The dialogue sounds is very natural, making the family seems realistic and relatable. The story is short, but every detail have a meaning, and the ending leaves us with a chilling and feelings. So as for our opinions, we all like the story because it suspenseful and teaches a strong moral lessons. We should not interfere with the fate or let fate control us. The writer successfully mixed supernatural horror with the real human emotions like love, fear, and regret. So I will make a conclusion. In conclusion, The Monkey Paw is an unforgettable story that show how powerful and dangerous our wishes can be. So it reminds us to be grateful for what we have, because sometimes what we wish for may bring more pain than the happiness. Thank you for watching our review.
Next is plot summary. So the story, The Monkey's Paw, is about a magical paw and the bad things that happen when people use it. It starts when the Sergeant Major Morris visit the White family and shows them that the monkey's paw, which is a small bright paw that can grant 3 wishes. He tells them that the paw brings bad luck and says they should destroy it. But Mr. White keep it because he is curious about making wishes. The son Herbert jokes that they should wish for 200 pounds. And Mr. White makes the wishes, but not taking it with it will really work. The next day, the family gets terrible news, which is Herbert has died in a machine accident at work, and the company gives them 200 pounds as payment. So this shows that the pause magic is real but cruel. It gives what people wish for in a sad way. Heartbroken, Mrs. White begs her husband to use the second wish to bring Herbert back to life. Mr. White is scared but finally agrees. Later, they hear loud knock at the door, and White believes it's her bed. Mr. White, terrified of what his son might look like now, so he used the third wish. So when Mrs. White opens the door, no one is there. So the story ends with a cold and scary feeling, teaching that people should not try to change their fate.